All right, welcome to Real Outdoors. This is Captain Adam. We got a great topic for you today, but before we meet the captains, big shout out to Captain Chucks for all their support, and also the Wolf's Den in Scottville, Michigan, for this beautiful table and chairs that we're using for this episode. But before we get started here, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, and you'll be reminded every time that we produce more videos, and you won't miss a thing. So let's meet those captains.
Hi, I'm Captain Craig Coleman from Ludington, Michigan.
Hi, Captain Dave Yeager here from Ludington, Michigan.
All right, Captain Adam here, Real Outdoors. Real quick, I'm going to have Captain Dave and Captain Craig talk about their rod setups for brown fishing. But before we do that, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell. Don't miss an episode from me. But let me turn it over to Dave and Craig.
Hello there. We're gonna what we got here. We're trying to explain a little bit on our setups for targeting brown trout in the early spring. And this particular rod that we have right here is basically one of probably your main rods that you'll be running. And this is basically called, I'm just going to call it a stick rod, a floater rod, whatever you want to call it, or a clean rod. A lot of guys will call it just a clean rod. There's no weights, there's no nothing. It's just basically your board to line to the bait. And what we do is we, being that it's springtime, a lot of times the water's pretty clear. So what we're running a fluorocarbon leader. I typically run 15 pound. If the water's a lot clearer, I'll drop down to 12. But you're going to take the chance of busting these browns off, because they're notorious. Once you hook them, they'll start just doing this. They'll start twisting. And when they do that, them hooks get caught in the line, and you're going to probably end up losing some baits. So, and I don't think it's a major thing from going from 12 to 15 as far as bites go, but some days it makes a difference. So what we're doing, all this is, and when I tie my leaders, I try to set it up with the rod, and what I'm running on this is just a barrel swivel right here, and then above that I run just a simple bead. And I kind of I'd run green for starboard and red for port, just so I can kind of keep track of my rods and which side of the boat they're all on. But and the bead helps as the season goes on. We'll start getting that grass out there, the dune grass, and it kind of a lot of times that grass will hit that and get caught there and not affect your bait. So it kind of helps with that. But basically, I just take the rod and I set it up when I'm tying these. When I get my leader's extra long, but I'll get my bead right up close to the tip. And that's when I set my knot for the snap, when I tie that. So then when my bait's on the reel, you know, when you tighten it up, you got a nice good leader. These are 9.5 foot rods. So, but anyways, basically on the reel, we're running straight mono, 20 pound. And the reason I run 20 pound is because you got boards hooked to it, and there's just a lot of extra stress and strain on the line. So that's why you want to use a heavier main line and then drop down to your fluorocarbon leader. And that's basically how we run our floater rods. And when we run these, typically, if you're running 3 rods, you got 3 floater baits on one side. We try to set up the furthest one out. I generally start like 90. If the water is stained and kind of dirty, I'll go 90, 80, 70. And if the water's a lot clearer, I'll go 120, 110, and 100. And that's how we set them up. And that way when you hit a fish on the outside board, that one's out further. When it comes around, it won't catch your other ones. So kind of helps out on getting not as many tangles.
Plus running the 20 pound, it's the same line we run for kings, so you don't have to change your line from king fishing to brown fishing to back to king fishing. You can just cut off your leader, go to a 20 pound leader if you run into, because we run into kings in springtime at times, and sometimes we can just cut our leaders off and just tie right direct to the mono for kings also.
And that's the floater rod.
Then what we do is usually when we're running spoons, we'll put a 1-color leg core on the rod. So we'll have our 20 pound backer then we'll put a 1 color of lead core, and we'll tie those little Spro swivels or whatever brand you use to the end of the lead core. Then we'll tie our fluorocarbon to the swivel also, and that way if we get a bad spot in our leader, we can quick retie. If you happen to mess up a lead core, we have extra 1 colors on the boat, so we can just tie them to the swivel, put a new 1 color on real quick, and be back fishing. But all of our spoons, we're running on 1 colors. You can run a keel sinker. Some people like keel sinkers better. We've just had better luck with the lead core, so that's why we do with the lead core. Got anything to add to lead core?
Yeah, usually when we run them, you'll run it out, and I like to, when I get to the end of the lead core, then you come into your 20-pound mono. I typically run that into let it keep going out until the lead core disappears into the water, and that's kind of my distance that I put out, and then you hook it to the board.
And if you are running spoons with your body baits, we always run the lead core closer to the boat and run the clean ones to the outside. If you try running the lead core over the clean ones, you will get tangles with it.
Yep, keep them on the inside. And the last one that we have in our arsenal is, we call them the slide diver. This one is particularly, it's the mini one. It's the smallest one. They make a smaller one, a little, they call it the mini disc. And we use them also too, but this one is kind of it's a simple setup and it works. So this one is just the slide divers. When you buy them, they got instructions on how to rig it. So once you get that done, but this is the same thing. I run mine to a swivel, and then the swivel hooks into another Spro barrel swivel, and then from there I run a 6-7 foot, once again, fluorocarbon leader to your spoon. And generally I take these off and wind them up on a round spool so they don't get kinks in the leader, because when you wrap it around the reel like this, you'll get kinks in the leader. So, but that's then when you run these out, I like to run mine, I'll set the counter and pull the line out and hold the diver, and you run it out 50 foot I usually go. Yeah. And then you set the diver, and when we're fishing early like this, I think I'm turned to, what number does that say?
6.
Out to 6. So it's not actually even diving down and when the water's clear you can see your diver. Typically it's just right down below the surface, but it's down just a little bit to get that bait down, the spoon down, and away from the boat. And there's certain days that these are pretty deadly.
Yeah, we've had days where divers have been some of the best rods on the boat,
yeah.
Even though they're close to the boat. But a lot of that comes back to the small boat again, because we don't have the disturbance in the water that the bigger boats have.
But that's basically, very seldom do I run riggers in the spring for browns. If I'm fishing near the pier heads, occasionally I'll run a rigger down when I'm in the dark water, and later in the season when the water warms up, you can catch browns, 10, 15 foot down. So basically that is the setup for brown fishing in the spring.